Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of the E-Reads podcast. I am your host, Liz, and this is my podcast where I talk with creatives, bookish folks, and all just great people who are interested in talking about wellness and creativity. Today, I have my guest, Deena, who is a children's book author, and we were talking about the intersection between our nervous system and creativity. Welcome back, Deena. We were having some technical difficulties. While we're waiting for Deena to come up, how are you doing? If you have any questions, please let us know in the comments. There we go. We see you now.
Okay,
How are you?
I'm pretty good, thanks. Woo.
Yes. I'm just dropping into the chat. Please let us know if you have any questions. Welcome, welcome. How are you on this Friday?
I am doing great, and just thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Absolutely. Please introduce folks to you and your amazing story, which we're talking a little bit about today. Lessons from the Future, Storm the Empowered Empath. Please do a brief introduction for us.
Okay, well, my name is Deena Morris, and I am the author of Lessons from the Future, Storm the Empowered Empath. It's a story basically when I go back in time to support my younger self and help her navigate those big emotions, just help her setting boundaries and things of that nature. So it's basically nervous system regulation in disguise.
And I'm like really excited, but before I jump too far ahead, can you please give us a breakdown of like what is our nervous system and how does that even matter to creativity?
Well, the nervous system is what it's in us that it actually helps us to identify if we're safe or not. That's the biggest thing with the nervous system. And a lot of people don't realize that. All it cares about is, are we safe? And so it's constantly scanning and
Mm-hmm.
um, seeing like what's going on. It keeps us very safe with regards to the fight or flight. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, there's something hot. We need to move that hand, and that's really good. And that's when we're in kind of that fight or flight mode. But the
Mm-hmm.
problem is if you stay in that fight or flight mode for too long, that's when the damage happens. We want to kind of be in the parasympathetic. That's when we're more in a relaxed stage. And so a lot of inflammation, autoimmune disease, stress, and fatigue pain can come from staying in that fight or flight for a long time.
I love that. And I love what you said. Basically, it helps us know are we safe or not? And like absolutely. And as we're writing and creating and we're putting ourselves in our characters, it can trigger that. And so like my therapist's brain, for those who don't know, I'm a therapist by day, writer by night. And I get really excited about that. And I love that breakdown because yeah, like it's doing its job. And just because we're not in real danger, it can still be activated. So I love that.
Yeah, that's something I really want people to understand.
Yeah, yeah. Tell us about that and how did you come to make that revelation? What was that journey like about for you?
Oh, wow. So I feel like I had two different experiences. One was just I am an empath, and that's what I want people to understand too. This is my story. It's about emotions, and we all have that. But I am the empath, and I have a hard time with boundaries and, people pleasing and not even people pleasing, just wanting to give more
Mm-hmm.
than what my body can handle. My body's like, what are you doing to me? And
Yes.
so with that, I was definitely big time giver, but neglecting myself. And that's where the problem lied. And there was a point where everything in my life was just great. I mean,
Mm,
everything that I had, all my goals, I was there in order to be productive, successful. And then I found myself one day, like literally on the floor having a breakdown.
mm,
And I was just like, what is happening? But what happened was my friends and, ones that I love were having so much of their own distress. And everyone was kind of putting that on me at the same time. And I was absorbing that. As you know, empaths are very like, we take things on heavy as if they were our own
that's on.
emotions.
Yes, yes.
Right. And I was just like, whoa, I had the biggest breakdown. And I'm like, listen, why am I here in this position? Like, I was just so happy. And I am a happy person. I
Yep.
always think of myself like Joy from Inside Out. the good and the bad. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and so I was just so like, how did I get here? And so it took me, it made me reflect a lot as to how I
Mm.
got to this point. Because I literally was like calling my mom. She couldn't even
Yeah.
understand. And she's like, I'm like, Mom, take me to the psych ward. Like it was that bad. And that's
Yeah.
crazy for me. That's not who I am. And so that was good though, because I had to reflect on how did I get here and what's my part. And it was my part because people treat you the way you show them. And so I had to realize, oh my gosh, you need to set boundaries. And so that was my
Mm-hmm.
way into therapy to like
Mm-hmm.
learn how to set those healthy boundaries. And I remember the first thing said was, you put your own oxygen mask on first before you help others. And that was amazing. Just that one line could have got me through everything because I
Yeah.
had to like make a conscious decision for anyone who asked me anything.
Mm.
Hey, Dina, I stopped. I literally would be like, yes, yes to
Yeah.
everything. Now I'm like, Dina, do you have it? Until it became a
Mm.
practice. And that was so empowering and just, yeah, it really helped me get through that time. Um, and so I didn't understand about the capacity part of it yet,
Mm.
but I knew that I was making strides in the right direction because boundaries is a big thing.
Yeah.
But then, like 2 years later, I had a big anxiety attack. I was told that I may have leukemia, and they kind of messed up my lab work. And they're like,
Remember seeing your video recently. You had posted about that.
yeah,
Absolutely. Before
yeah,
you tell us about that, I want to go back. You said like two things that really stood out. Like one is that reflection piece. And I think both in wellness and when it comes to creativity, reflection is so important because we're absorbing so much information and we're trying to make so many decisions, but you have to get back to the root of you. And that only comes by reflection. And so like I love that because I feel like we get so much in decision mode, but we forget to reflect and like have that quiet time.
yeah,
And then you talked about making the conscious decision, like that checking in of do I have capacity? And I think we forget about that because we can be like, well, this feels good. It feels good to write. It feels good to show up for people. And it does. And like in your book, Marley's superpower also hurt her, and so I'm looking to get more into that. But first, please share with us. And for those who don't know, on Dina's social media, she had posted about her journey where she was, they told her she might have leukemia, but please share that with us as well and how that helps your wellness journey.
yeah. And so basically, I was in fear because it's
Mm,
like you can pass out, cancel your trip, and it was just so crazy to me. It's like your blood work is crazy right now, and I'm just like, whoa! And then all of a sudden, I wake up 2 days later in the morning, and my heart is beating out my chest, and I'm like,
mm.
oh no, the doctor said this could happen, and she already had made a an appointment for me before she even called me with the
Oh,
hematologist.
wow. So she
I
was like
mean,
worried about you.
yeah.
Okay.
It was it was insane. And so when that started happening and I lost all feeling in my legs, everything, I couldn't walk, and I guess it's because my body went into protective mode, just protected my organs. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was interesting. They came and when the doctor, he was like, there's nothing wrong with your blood. And I'm like, no, but look at my
What?
results. Look at my results. And he's like, yeah, that could have been a fluke, something, but no one addressed that. But he says, what it's an anxiety attack and you have to address it. But then it happened again that same week. I couldn't stop. It didn't stop happening. And I had to keep going to the emergency room. And then one doctor who you can tell he had like a psych background, he was like, listen, you need a mantra. You need to practice breath work and you need to do this before it happens. If you're trying to do it while it's happening, it's not going to work. And I was like, what is this?
Absolutely. Listen, it's always like when you're in the middle of crisis, like, let me use my coping skills. It was like, no, that is, use them before, make it part of your daily practice. Like,
Yeah.
again, in creative, this is for you as well. Like, what is that writing routine that's going to help you? Not just when you're at the point where you are so stagnant, like every day, what is that thing that's going to keep you well? Like, thank you for that reminder.
Yes. Yes. And so that was a journey on its own, and I was learning a lot, and I got into a lot of holistic healing and, um, yeah, biofeedback, all these natural things. And then I noticed on Instagram there was a lady. She had a glass, and she showed the length of the glass, the height of the glass, and then a shorter one. And it was so clear. You pour into one, it doesn't overflow, but you pour into the other one and
Mm.
it overflows capacity. And that was the first time I was like, oh my goodness, I don't have capacity anymore. If this was years ago when before I was like, my nervous system was more damaged, I probably would not have had that attack. I didn't even know what an
Right.
attack was like, but now I had lost capacity through those years of like people pleasing and self abandonment and not taking care of me. But I just love taking care of everyone else. But my body was not happy with me, and it made it very, very
Mhm.
clear. Yeah.
Absolutely. I love that about capacity and like things change, right? Things that you may be able to tolerate. There's so many factors external, we think about you're seeing more people with anxiety and things with, we're exposed to so much online and all of these things that are really important, but our body absorbs that and that has an impact. Like sometimes I see people talk about how like they don't feel inspired to create and then they start to get into a cycle of beating up on themselves and all of these things and rather than reflecting and saying, like, that's your body saying, you're at capacity. I can't create because you don't have enough room. Like, there's not enough storage for you to create. You have to pause and take care of yourself. And so, again, I appreciate that reminder to like look in before you pour out because it's so important, especially too. And when, again, writing feeds us, helping others can be a source of feeding us. But if you're at capacity, it then becomes harmful.
Yeah, I agree.
And when did you develop this children's story? Like, how did this come about on your journey?
So this was really interesting. I am a sign language interpreter, and
Really?
yes, and I do work in the schools with students who are deaf and hard of hearing. And so that puts me basically at the front row to see everything. You see a lot of kids with these big emotions. You see
Mhm.
them giving in to peer pressure when they
Yeah.
really don't want to. I mean, there's so much like right in front of my face. And one person in particular that I truly treasure, like I saw that she had that empathic nature
Mm.
and that the self neglect, everything was already happening at such a young age. And because I had been on this journey for like 2, 3 years,
Mm-hmm.
I learned so much. And when you're at that point already, you're seeing someone else go through the same thing. It tugs at your heart. It's like, oh my gosh, I don't want this person to suffer. I don't want them to go through what I went through. And even I wish I can go back in time and have what I have now as a young person. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
1000%.
yeah, and so I couldn't, but I'm like, well, why don't I help the younger generation? Why do they have to go through this? Why not give them, like it's called it kind of preventative, right? It is preventative.
1000%.
Yeah. So that inspired me, just that situation and seeing all the other young people. I was like, I want to give them a chance, like a head start. And so I wrote this story. It's basically, I call it my autobiography-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah, it literally is me.
Yeah, and as you're talking, it makes me think of a more sustainable way to be an empath in the sense like you can't help everyone, but this is a way of translating what you know. So like you still get to help, but in a way that's more sustainable. Like again, like you can't go to each individual person and pour this in, but this is a way of saying like here, and that also preserves your energy and your heart. And so like I love that, and it makes me think of how do you sustainably do the things that are important to you so that way you're not consistently burning out. So I love that.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. It's yeah, very helpful in that way. Um,
Absolutely. And I really loved, first of all, the images are really cute, but also like the lessons are so relatable to like how kids are sponges and people are as well, but like looking from the eyes of, a little person and how they pick up on everyone's emotions and they pick up on the themes and the things around. And, it was really nice to kind of give kids language of like, oh, I'm sad because I'm seeing my mom maybe struggling with bills, or I'm seeing someone feeling left out. And so I could see how this would be super great for kids. And I'm wondering, have you had adults also say like, "Oh my God, I've learned so much through this as well."
Honestly, all the adults who have read the book, the feedback is this is not only for children, this is for adults.
Mm.
And that's why I wanted it to be very clear that being an empath is me, but emotions is everyone, right?
Yes.
And so everyone feels these things and they feel like sometimes overwhelmed and, oh man, I need a boundary. That's everyone. And so I was very happy with that feedback because I wanted it to be something that was relatable to all. Like everyone has that inner child that needs healing still. So,
Absolutely, absolutely. And thinking about being an empath and your writing journey, were there times that you had to pause? Like, was it overwhelming revisiting some of those things for you?
um, I feel like the writing journey was very therapeutic for me
Mm,
because yeah, it gave me a chance to go back and go through that journey that I went through and I felt empowered. I felt really good about it. But like
mm,
going back when I'm talking with like interviewers such as yourself, and I'm like, okay, how do I share this story of what happened to me? Thinking about where it started, that was more of a struggle. I was like, oh wow, that really happened. But look what great things came
mm.
from it. So
Yeah, and like that's like a good point of like sometimes like the writing is the easy part, the part that heals, but revisiting it when talking to someone can be triggering. And I think again, like you talked about that reflection, that being aware of, how is it showing up in your body helps you to manage all of that. Because like if you don't know the impact it has on your body, you could be like, oh, I'll do these three interviews back to back. And then you are overstimulated by the end of it and saying, oh no. So I think that's so important. Again, when we're thinking about creatives and things like that, like being mindful, don't think that you're going to promote your book all day and then have a writing session or an art session. That may be too much. You may have to start your day or do that on a different day. And so being mindful of your capacity in your body. I love all these reminders.
yeah.
What are some things that you do to protect your capacity that maybe others can kind of glean from if they're just like, I have no idea how to manage my capacity, how to set those boundaries? What are some daily practices that like help you?
Um, So I like to just do very simple things, and that's what I want people to understand. It doesn't have to be, anything crazy, but something like, okay, let me give myself something warm to drink. Let me do things a little slower. The rushing can also be very negative to our nervous system. And so I'm like, okay, I do not want to rush. What am I going to do the night before to make sure?
I feel so validated.
Yeah. Because you have to work at it, right? It doesn't happen like this, but I'm putting in thought and effort and just trying to take it slow because that slow pace tells your nervous system that we are safe, we're okay. So just something
Mm.
that simple, you know?
1000%, 1000%, because I had a meeting scheduled after this, which thankfully got canceled. But like I know from like being back to back, that does like I'm more anxious, and by the end of the day, like my body is holding on to that. So even though like
Hmm.
mentally I know I'm safe and this is fine, that sense of like like there's no room for error adds some tension that I have to be mindful in through the day. And so finding those moments. And then realizing when the meeting got canceled, I was like, okay, we can ease into this. We can be more present. And so it's so important to be mindful of those things. And again, like thinking about how you schedule your day, how you schedule when you're going to create all of these things. And it's so nice having this conversation. Previously, last week, we talked with Danny Williams about our body and writing when she was sick and what she had to do to adjust her schedule. And so I like this through line of again taking care of us as the vessel, because if we're not
Hmm.
okay, we can't pour out into anyone else. We can't pour out our creativity. So like I love this.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And correct me if I'm getting this information wrong. You also have like an 8-week kind of guide or a course. Is this correct?
Yes, I'm actually, it's going to be out next week, which I'm very,
Congrats. Yay.
yeah, I'm really excited about it. And
Tell
like I
us
mentioned,
more.
yeah, I am a holistic practitioner as well, like certified iridologist and health coach. And because of my own personal experience with understanding the nervous system now, so I want others to understand it and understand like, why am I feeling this pain? Why do I have fatigue anxiety? So I thought it would be nice to like create a course doing things that I incorporate in my daily life. Just very simple. Um, for people to incorporate in their life and just make it be self-guided, that they can do it at their own pace and, start rebuilding that capacity. I think a lot of people aren't even aware of what that is and aware of the little things, the little changes we can do in our everyday life that will help us to feel different. So I've been working on it and I'm just so excited to share that kind of a resource with my community.
I love that, and it's why I started it and expanded into creative wellness coaching because we can't be creative without the wellness part. And like, I love that. And I love that we're seeing more of that because so much we can focus on productivity and not realize how much it's hurting our body. And then we're beating up on ourselves when we can't create, when we're having these blocks, all of these things. And it's like, yeah, that's your body saying too much, we're at capacity. And so I love that you're creating this course for people, and I think it's going to be so helpful. How can people learn more? How can they sign up? Like, what can they do?
Well, it'll be on my website, which is the link is in the bio, and it'll be out probably Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. Those are my days. I
I'm
want to
very
perfect it.
excited. How was it building the course? Was that like hard? Like I've never done that. Like my brain gets like really overwhelmed. What was that like for you building the course? Were you like just it flowed like you're writing? What was that like?
Um, I had to think about myself
Mm,
because I think I'm a good example of what's too like. I didn't want it to be complicated for people. I wanted to,
appreciate
just
that. Yes.
like keep it simple and things that are doable, things that people can really relate to, and like, oh, yeah, I really can make these changes. So every
Mm,
week that I went through, I'm like, mm, okay, I don't think this is going to really work for someone, and I would make changes
mm-hmm.
accordingly. You have to think about your
Yeah.
audience as well, and I think I'm a good example of what because I'm just trying to be realistic with it and the kind of
Yeah.
questions that I want them to engage in. So I had to think about all of that and just, have it all outlined. And it was fun. And you do have to videotape yourself. So that was more of the challenging part. I'm like, ah.
A
But
1000%. But I love how you said, you wanted people to feel like I can make these changes. And I think that's really important. And we gather that even from the book. Like it's from a lens of empowerment and letting people feel like I can do this. And that's really
mhm,
great because you can give us the information, but if we don't feel like we can do this, it's kind of like falling on, stony ground, So I really appreciate that, the intentionality that you've put into everything.
thank you so much. Yeah.
Absolutely. Anything else that you have coming up? Anything else that you would love to share with people?
Let's see. Well, I know I do have also a lessonsfromthefuture.org website. And that is for the curriculum because I did turn the book into a full curriculum, a social emotional learning curriculum. And I think that's really important because that's the way you can get it out to more children and not only
Mm-hmm.
have a book, which a lot of kids read the book and they're like, oh, I like this. This is so encouraging and it's well written, but now what do you do after that? How are you going to incorporate what you've learned? And so I really wanted something like this to be available for teachers to expand on these lessons, and
Love
then
it.
the students to actually have their own copies of workbooks that they can actually now implement what they've learned, and that way it's like more of a long-term lesson learning, and they could start making those changes before they start with the physical aspects of what happens to the nervous system once you don't take care of it.
Absolutely. And it really is, like you mentioned, long term. Like, like you're constantly adjusting because, again, what you may have capacity for today may change as you change, as, the weight of everything changes. And so, like, again, like I love these reminders to constantly reconnect with yourself, right? Constantly discover who you are in that moment and what you need. And that's going to help you grow. And again, we know from the creative process what you may do on your first book may not be what you do on your second or your third or your fourth. And so that habit of constantly rechecking in with you, making sure that your process works, is going to help you have so much longevity, not just for your storytelling and your creativity, but for how you show up for yourself and others.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, Dina, this has been wonderful. I got to get this book for my nieces because I think they will just love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Roland, thank you. You said what's good, family. Love this conversation. Absolutely. Y'all, please let us know if you have any questions before we wrap up. Deena has given us so much information on the connection between our nervous system. And for those who missed it, our nervous system is there to let us know if we are safe or not. I love that condensed definition. In her children's book, Marley has the superpower of being an empath, and we learn about our emotions and the takeaway that I am am taking away is conscious decision making, right? Being aware of my capacity so that I can show up for myself and others, because that is so important. There's so many times you want to do it all, but are you going to do it well, mentally well, holistically well? And so like I'm taking that on my journey this week.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Thank you for having me. This has been like a really great pleasure.
Absolutely. All the best with the launch of your upcoming course and all of the things. I have to have you come back the next time you launch something. But please share any last words with folks, anything you want to leave us with, whether it's about wellness, creativity, or anything at all.
Let's see. So many things in my head.
Go for it. And then y'all, I will say your comments so that way those on the replay will hear as well, because these are really great. So I won't leave y'all out as well, but we'll start with Deena.
Okay. Yeah, I just want people to be reminded to take care of themselves, show yourself that love, and then you can show up for other people. I think that's the biggest thing. And I think it's also important for you to understand and be in tune with your body and what the things you're
Yeah.
feeling. Try to understand what it truly is. Don't feel overwhelmed or confused, but figure out what's going on. And
Yeah.
I can promise you it's probably your nervous system that needs support.
1000%. I love that. We have Flo J15 who says, fantastic, ladies. The info is a takeaway for adults and kids. Excellent reminder. Absolutely, right? Like, I love when a children's book is not just for the kids, but the adults are getting something as well. It's like, oh, wow, let me, check on my emotions. Because again, we all have them, as you said. So I love that. Awesome, awesome. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for joining us, Deena. All the best on your launch, and thank you for
Thank
stopping by.
you.
Until next time, bye.
Bye. Take care.